As a recruiter, how much time do you actually spend reviewing a resume before you decide to interview or not? Or is it more important to do events like this where you see the face and they talk to you? Let's start with you. Since you were 16.
Actually, reading a resume very little unless special. Especially for being visual. There's so much reading. We're constantly reading all day and reading all of this. So it's really more a one-on-one interview.
So there are two different components when you think of exploring your job opportunity. So of course the first thing is your resume. So your resume is extremely important because it's almost your ticket, if you will. Since your ticket, you're trying to get to the party, to the job party. Your ticket is your resume. So you want to make sure that your resume is well put together. So how many people have actually been to the Career Center on campus? So we should increase that number because you're attending an institution, university, that's included in the fees that you pay to the university. So they can help you critique your resume because again, in terms of spending time when we're looking at a resume, recruiters spend less than about a minute to look at a resume to know based on skill sets, et cetera. So again, resume is the ticket. If you make it through the process of a recruiter actually selecting your resume, but also you have to understand there are technologies that will scan resumes to get your resume selected. All those things are really important, so that's why you want to make sure you visit the Career Center to get some coaching and advice on how to better your resume. But the interview is also important because it's your opportunity to sell the resume. It's nothing worse than having someone have a great resume and then you go into an interview and it's not the same person. So from my perspective, having been in the industry for 16 years or so, it's a combination of both on my end.
I mean, I'll echo those comments. We typically, as a hiring manager, our recruiters will screen the resume and say, this person matches what you want. We will look at the resume to hire someone. And the people that stick out are the people who are stating, I had impact. So it doesn't mean I had impact because I had 5 years experience. It means I created this application in a technology capacity and it had this result, or whatever your field is in, showing that you had impact, your volunteer work, and other capabilities that will make you stick out. But I mean, it really is your ticket. You want to make sure it's tailored when it's possible to a particular job that you're going after and highlighting the criteria that you meet for that position. But the interview is really all about that conversation and finding out if you're both a functional fit as well as a fit for the organization.
Emily, do you have an answer? You want me to ask you a different question? I'm going to ask you a hard question. I'm going to ask you a hard question. Since you're a director of Northrop Grumman, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Do you think that there is a ceiling for Asian Americans in corporate America, that we can only go so high?
I believe that's in your mind. A company like Northrop Grumman and many other Fortune 500 companies are moving to make sure that there are diverse ideas and diversity pervasive, especially our CEO, Wes Bush. He's making a huge cultural change as our aerospace company. It's male dominant, white folks used to run that company. If you look at our current diversity, we have lots of folks who are female. We have a lot of female engineers, as well as African Americans, Asian Americans, and so on. We have a vice president, a Korean American, I myself, and there are several Asian American, successful Asian Americans here in Northrop Grumman who continue to upgrade their ceiling. Our sector president is a female, Kathy Warden. My previous sector president was a female as well. So I think there is no limit to what you can do today in this large corporation. So don't limit yourself with it.
Sank, I'm going to ask you a tough question too. Since you're president of a big multimedia corporation, would you consider a candidate with great academics, like 4.0, 3.5, Or would you consider somebody who has maybe lesser academics but more work experience? What's more important to you when you're president and someone comes to you and they're like, I have a really smart kid with a really great GPA, or I have an average GPA kid with an amazing work experience? What's better?
I think it depends on the particular position. If you're obviously hiring at an entry level, then you want to look at school, you want to look at major, you want to look at GPA. If you are doing an experienced hire, even if it's 2 years out of school, you do give credence to the experience and the types of work that this person candidate might have done. And in the end, put it perfectly, I think you got to make sure that on your resume you have to show if you, let's say, didn't have the best of educational background, was there not the top level schools or great GPA, you have to make sure that your resume, your experience shows that you had an impact on whatever you were doing, not just list a bunch of tasks and things that you did. That's just false completeness. But me personally, I went to a great school, but I was never a great student. So I like to, I tend to look at folks who have more experience and that show that they had an impact and they have real world experience, some street smarts and things.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have a question? If not, I'm going to ask you one. Yes, young lady in the back.
Hi. As identified as Asian and also like women of color, what kind of difficulties have you faced trying to move forward in the workforce? And do you have any advice that you would give for marginalized identities trying to work forward?
Did you hear that?
Sorry, does that make sense?
So I think what she said, she's a young woman. She's half Asian, half Latina, and she just wants to know how women, especially young females, can prevent themselves from being marginalized, or are they still marginalized in corporate America? Did I synopsize you right? You want to ask it?
Yeah, definitely. I was just asking, as like minorities, especially like Asian and also women of color, what kind of challenges have you faced trying to advance your position or even just join the workforce? Do you have any advice for other minorities trying to advance it?
I think, at Northrop Grumman, right, from Verizon's perspective, I think we have a very diverse organization, very diverse culture, and I think it's what you make of it, right? So there's no per se like ceilings that we see, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for people that are coming in the door, especially for you guys, right? The millennials that are out there, trying to either start a company like Tim or you're joining the workforce within corporate America. I think it's what you make of it, right? It's what you bring, your talent and your enthusiasm. And I think that kind of shows, and you make the career that you want, right? And the same thing with the companies, like what Timothy has done with that. He's starting his his corporation, his company. I think you want to make sure that you put your heart and soul into it. And I think Eric's are perfectly right. It's all the hard work, right, and all the sacrifices that you make. And I think we do the same thing. And in corporate culture, I think people see the same thing. What you put into it, and it's what you will get out.
Leanne, here's something.
I would actually love to come in.
Yeah, please do.
I think probably the best advice I got was at a very challenging time. My husband was in the Navy, and he took me on a ship, and we had to move. And my career was going like this. I was on track for promotion, everything was going great, and ultimately I had to make that decision, right? It was about my family at that point, and somebody gave me really great advice. He was a vice president at Exxon. She said, it's all about your career trajectory. Make your career meaningful to you. And in that way, I was able to make a move. Within 2 months, I was in the CIO's office out at Spavor, and I introduced myself to the right people. I got the right mentors. And so if I could offer advice to young people, particularly young women, find the people that can help you. It may be a great woman, it may be someone you don't suspect, but get out there, find out what you need to know to get to that next step, and ask for it. Don't expect it to be given to you, it won't. You have to ask for it. So that would probably be a little piece of this.
Yeah, and just, I guess, an important issue with me is saying, as a woman of color, I think it's really important for you to understand it's great to have mentors, But you also need sponsors. So the difference between a mentor and a sponsor essentially is when you think of someone who you had the opportunity to get to know within a company, whether it's through an internship or just experience that you've had within a company, that person can actually speak for you and there are decisions being made. You know, you can go through succession planning, conversations and things like that within an organization. But someone who has not gotten to know you simply at the mentor level is someone who, when there are times to make decisions, can speak for you and make sure that you're advanced in those conversations. Those are the types of relationships you want to make sure that you start to build in your career, that you're looking at both mentors and sponsor opportunities within whatever organization you might be. And the second thing I would also say is make sure that you make your voice heard. Don't ever walk into a room and think, oh, I'm a person of color, woman of color, and you know, I'll just sit here. That's never the way to make sure that your trajectory is in the path that it should be. So you want to make sure that, number one, that you find your space and place in your voice in whatever career that you decide to pursue.
Does anybody have a question? Yes, Nina.
How do most companies hire their
Let's get this so everybody else can hear you.
How do most companies hire their entry-level positions, like through the online or through campus?
Teresa, you want to answer that, or Joan?
We don't participate in online campus activity. For us, it's mostly through online. We have students who are young, entry-level positions who are interested in our, because our industry is very specific. In wealth management, who would typically research firms in the area and submit, and most websites, and ours also has a recruiting link. You can submit your resume and be part.
Henry, what about at Northrop?
We get tens of thousands of resumes, so it is going to be very difficult for you to stand yourself out. So I think one of the things that all the panels talked about was sponsors and network. Because you're not in the workforce does not mean you don't have a network. You can be networking today, for example. That network is very important. Northrop Grumman, we hire a lot of the folks that's referred by the employees because it's a guarantee. So when we refer someone entry level, we have also a program that is an internship program through college. Most of them end up taking our job unless they go to the California and go to the better road. But you gotta have to build your network. And once you're in the workforce, as she said here, you're gonna have to find a sponsor. And that sponsor, as that sponsor moves up, he or she is going to bring along with you. As Asian American and all you guys are all quiet, acquiesce on meetings, on some of the stuff we talked about. Speak up. Talk what's in your mind. A lot of the times people talk in the meeting and your brain starts thinking, oh, that's what I think, but you don't talk. If you don't talk, they don't know what you're thinking. Take yourself out of your mind, take yourself out of your Asian mind, and be part of the workforce.
I think a gentleman had a question, second row, third row.
Raise your hand
Ready?
if you have a question.
Yes, question.
So I have a quick question. So, like, I guess it's a general question. So, when you graduate from college with a degree, right? However, if you don't have the degree meeting the requirement of hiring, but if you have work experience that kind of deal or matches to it, would you guys consider hiring? Because I recall most of you guys were saying when you guys look at the resume, you guys only look at a little time, less than a minute. You guys say the impact. Well, like, you know, if your degree doesn't look that great, or your GPA, however, you have really good working experiences, you climb up to the national position, would you guys in that case would give that said student a chance, an opportunity?
I think I could actually answer this question for you. Because I went to a very small liberal arts college, one of these obscure schools in Pennsylvania, and studied East Asian Studies. So when I was impending graduation of the East Asian Studies company started recruiting, I had to go find a way to get a job. And I just had a vague notion of I wanted to do something, I wanted to become a professional and I wanted to be proactive about getting a job, but I hadn't had really a lot of professional working experience. So on my resume, what I did was to list everything that I did. And to this day, it was probably dumb enough that I ended up getting a job at a large professional services firm, the largest in its field, but that was through a network. So a person that was a couple years ahead of me was already at this company, and he had given me a tip that they're recruiting, they had a particular program where they started to recruit from liberal arts colleges, and not necessarily people with professional degrees. But even the tip and the information only came through because I knew a guy who went to that firm first. So if I were to give you a practical advice about building a network, so it doesn't directly answer your question about the resume, but I think listening and again making sure that everything that you've done in your college career says something about yourself, who you are, what you did, and what kind of impact you had. And then in terms of building a network, it starts with your career development office, people in your community network, and then if you feel like you don't have the right network, then you have to build it by being more active and participating in things. Go join a community group or community action group or a political group, or at school some sort of a professional club or what have you. You have to be out there and active and start building yourself and building your resume and your story.
Can you let me ask you a question? How important is graduate school? If, let's say, a majority of the students and young professionals in this room, they're going to go from college straight to law school, college straight to MBA, college straight to, MPH or something like that. My parents told me to go to law school, so I did college in 2 years, and then I went to law school. How important is it to go to graduate school?
I think it's, I think Eric said, he went back and finished up his school, after he did his stint in NFL, right? So I kind of did the same thing. I went to the Air Force, my same age as you guys. Traveled the world, halfway around. I didn't finish my college degree until actually I was in the Air Force getting ready to get out. So it's one of my regrets that, wish I would have really stayed, right? And continue to learn. So I'm doing that now, right? So I actually went back and started taking classes in Georgetown, finishing up my master's degree. So I think it's very, very important, right? Because one of the things I wanted to share with you guys tonight was that, I had this 3 H's, right? You're going to stay hungry for knowledge, right? Always seek knowledge, but stay hungry. And you want to hustle, right? Getting that knowledge, getting things done. And be happy, right? All the things that you do. And so, stay hungry, right? Always hustle, be happy. And it's same thing with getting whether it's graduate degree or getting your doctorate after that, right? It's it's something that you should do. It's something that if you want to do now, right? As continue education, you can do that. You can start a career, and just like Eric did, right? And with NFL, I'm finishing up. I think there's always opportunity, right, to go back and do that. Right? So I think it's that moment that you have, right? And whether it's that because of the networking and the people that you meet, there's an opportunity that pops up, right? For you to either start a company or start a career, do that, right? Then you go back and finish up your degrees. Okay? So that's just my advice.
Is there a question? I know there's a question.
One thing I would add is, like Tim said, this is a time to take risks. And when I talk about listing of your experiences, we actually love resumes that show like off-the-wall, wacky experiences that you've done, but they're really committed to it, and they've, again, made an impact in doing whatever it was. Even joining the military. I worked for a guy who was a West Point grad, and he went into finance and now is in media entertainment. So these special experiences, they may not be professional in nature, but if you get committed to it and you're really sort of making an impact through these experiences and you can show that, I think that's what's important.
And add a note too, just especially since it looks like the majority of you guys are coming from college going into early career. And I think you said a little bit about this, we were talking about having impact. So whatever leadership or extracurricular opportunities you have, having a GPA is great, but only having a GPA is not going to get you in the door, unfortunately. Very honest. So when we talk about the opportunity to create impact, You want to make sure that you're engaged on campus and having an opportunity to create that impact. I always remember my first job interview, and it's a behavioral interview. So behavioral interviews, it really goes into, tell me about an experience and tell me a time when. So if you have nothing to talk about besides what paper you wrote, that's not going to get you the job. So you want to make sure that you're building some type of leadership and extracurricular experiences on campus so that in your first job, where you may not have had such a great internship experience and some other work experience, that you have something to craft around building your resume. So I really implore you all to make sure that you're building that leadership through extracurriculars and community activities so that you can continue to have the impact that Leanne spoke about earlier.
Yeah, Leanne, what if you're not good at talking? What if you're not a good interviewer and you don't know what to talk about and you just, everybody says like your personality is very important. Like how are you a good interviewer? What do you have to do?
So I was actually going to ask the question, has anyone here, have you been on interviews? Are you just starting the process? Anybody else been on
Raising
interviews?
hands, anybody interviews? Yeah, most of them.
Has anyone been on a good interview? Okay, interviewing it's tough, and you need to practice. You need to have somebody, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it, but throw darts at you. I mean, it's not an easy process, and you need to prepare for behavioral questions. You need to prepare for technical questions. I know at our firm, you will probably talk to at least 5 or 6 people. Someone will look at your resume and Jonathan will call you up and say, hey, you look like a good fit, tell me about yourself. Great, check the box. I'll do a phone screen, or I'll have one of my staff do a phone screen. Hey, do we think this guy or gal has the right skill set? Do they seem like a good team fit? Most of my questions are, does this person fit on our team? Are they going to be the committed as the rest of us to getting the project done? And so I ask a lot of questions about problem solving skills. My very first interview at Booz Allen, I was hired a year later. So my first interview was, what do you know about the Blvd architecture framework? But what I did say was, I don't know a lot about the DoD specific framework, but I do know about Zachman's architecture framework. Let me tell you about it. And so I was able to share the knowledge that I had, but I could have just said no. And I can't tell you how many candidates come in and say, no, I don't have that. No, I don't have any experience with that. So make your experience relatable to the job and ask questions. Come prepared. Ask your questions about, what would make me successful if I were able to join your team? What are the critical things that would make a candidate successful? Those are the kind of things that we want to hear from you, because it's tough to interview candidates because we all want you to succeed. And I will tell people, I think you have a great skill set, but you're probably not the right fit for this position. I'm going to take your resume and give it to my colleague and have them talk to you. And so that is part of that networking process, is to be able to say, this is really what I know.
Question?
Oh yeah. Right. Hello. Okay, my name is Andrew Kim. My question was particularly directed at the directors because everyone thinks that they can be a director or a leader, but I especially thought that too, but I wasn't given. But we don't often do the things that make us directors. So what would you say did you do that filled that gap between what you were thinking about doing and leading and all that, and what you did to get to that position, for other people to trust you, for other people to even, because it's sort of passed down in the traditional workforce.
What do you think, Henry?
Asian Americans are one of the smartest, hardest working people in our company and probably the rest of the engineering Fortune 500 as well as other companies. I think the downside is we think that if we sit in the corner and do our best and put 20 hours a day and get this widget out, that somebody's going to recognize me. A large corporation like Northrop Grumman, as you excel, they want you to pigeonhole you into certain areas. It doesn't happen as much as nowadays. We like to make sure we have you diverse experience and get the right one. But I think you're gonna have to, number one, have a passion. Don't get stuck in the title. Director, VP doesn't mean anything, right? We don't get paid as much as the rest of the engineers or VPs, right? The pay scales are maybe a few digits off, right? So a lot of young people come in and 10 years later they say they want to be a director. And they have no idea why they want to be a director, but it sounds cool. I think, number one, you need to know what you want to do. And you're going to have to sell yourself. Your merchandise is yourself. And you're going to have to market yourself. Don't just sit there and just do your thing and somebody tells you to do it. Broaden yourself, go talk with people. Public speaking is another thing that's important. You're going to have to go out in the front of the people, present your ideas, and be very clear and succinct, and make sure you show passion. Somebody's going to recognize you, and somebody's going to say, come and work for me. And the reason I say that now is important is, as people move up, if they trust you, they want to take along with you, and that's how you can move up.
Just kind of add to that. I think it's about branding yourself, right? Eric and Tim, they kind of both said that, right? Whether you're coming into a brand new company that Timothy started, or Eric, well-established NFL player, going to your company, you're branding yourself. So you have to start from the resume, right? What's in your resume that's going to make it stand out in thousands of other resumes, right, that are getting submitted, whether it's online or you're going to career job fairs. It's something that's going to stick out from the resume, right? And going back to your question about being a director, I kind of got here, in volunteering for jobs that nobody else wanted, right? Seeking those opportunities where people kind of shied away from. Say, raise my hand and say, hey, let me take on that challenge, right? And I think both Timothy and Eric said it, right? Don't be afraid to fail. Right? If you're going to fail fast, move on. But make sure you stay happy. I'm going to keep saying that, right? Because when you go to interview, one of the things that people when we get into panel interview sessions, it's people that come in with doom and gloom, right? So practice even a fake smile. Just make sure you do that. So that goes a long way. Then go back to the question about director. There's nothing great about being a director. You get to get to all the headaches of managing people. That's what you get every day. So I'll tell you a funny story. Remember one of my VPs that got recently got promoted, came down from New York, and we're sitting down for our first face-to-face meeting, and he had asked questions. Said, how many kids do you have? I said, I have 5. He looked at me in my eye and said, how many kids do you have? But the third time he asked that question, it dawned on me. He said, I have 564. Right? That's just a joke. It's just wonderful. Just being, enjoy what you're doing. So it doesn't matter, to your point, what position you're in, right? It's the passion that you have for your job, and volunteering for those jobs that nobody else wants. You'll get to the, whatever your career is going to take you, right?
So, can you ask that one?
One of the things I think you have to do is you have to create change. You have to, when somebody says, you know what, we really need you over here. Well, I'm supposed to be successful over here. Just be willing to change and crave it, seek out those jobs that, you really didn't want to do, but it will give you such a breadth of experience, and I think that's what it takes to succeed as a director. And I would also say, in your young career, make sure you're someone's second team. Make sure that every time they need something, they're looking at you. They're looking to the right, and they're seeing the person they want to rise up. When I try to build second teams all the time, and that's what I have to tell them. You need to delegate. You need to share the tasks and the success with other people, and that, I think, is a reflection of a leader. It's someone who is promotable, helping the team.
So let's have Singh and then Teresa answer these questions, or in reverse order. What do you do if you don't have a passion, and you don't want to go to graduate school, and you don't know what to do? what field, what field do you think is actually going to be successful for them to get into? They're just plugging along. What do they do?
I would, if that's the case, and I know that everybody's financial and personal situations are different. I certainly couldn't afford to take any time off after graduating from college, but looking back, and then I was lucky enough to get a job lined up and all that stuff. But if let's say I didn't get a good job offer and I really didn't know what I was going to do, irrespective of your financial situation or personal situation, I think it's not a bad thing for you to take some time off but spend the time productively. Again, go volunteer or go to a different country, to whatever it is to sort of have an experience that can be translatable to a professional career. Again, something that shows initiative, leadership, just by taking a chance and showing that on your resume, they can tell a lot about you as a candidate. Whereas the person can still take the year off and not do anything but kind of prepare for a job interview. That kind of shows in a resume and then it's really boring.
Teresa? Yes.
Try. I would do a lot. If I didn't know what I wanted to do and I had no passion, just sitting in a room is not going to get me there. Or looking at it, you could research into all the reading you want. Have the experience. When I was growing up and I was younger, I don't know if it's still, after school, we all went backpacking. If you go to Europe, that's even better. But if not, just you have to get out, you have to travel, you have to see the world. And being Asian, or it's not a limitation. The limitations in your mind. You should always, I'm a double minority, Asian and female, and I have most of my mentors were men, and they said, no, it's you. You will put yourself in that box. Speak up, give it 110%, and go for it. You have to go after those positions. But leadership positions, you don't get there alone. You are a leader, and they have to make you a leader. And leaders inspire. You have to be compassionate, and you have to be able to inspire others. And they'll make you a leader or a director. You don't get there on your own.
Somebody have a question, maybe for John? Yes.
Microphone.
Who has the microphone? Oh, there he is. Okay, in the back row.
I have a question. I know when you go into the interviews, I know the interviewers kind of cut you down a lot because pretty much you're competing against more experienced people with their resumes. How do you work through that?
I'm sorry the interviewers are cutting you down.
I don't think we're going.
To talk to who's interviewing you. So, preparation for interviews, and Leanne just kind of talked about this. So, you play any sports by chance? Yes, no? So, it's kind of similar deal. You want to make sure that you're preparing yourself. So, you're going to get knocked down in an interviewing situation, but the best thing that you can do is continue to practice. So, if you've gone through an interview process and you felt that you've gotten that kind of knocked down feeling, you want to make sure that you've gone through as many practice or mock interviews as possible. Whether you have your friends that can ask you questions, whether you go to the career center on campus, your parents, whomever. You just want to make sure, especially because, quite honestly, as a recruiter, I can tell you, there are only so many questions that we can figure out to ask you, right? So, you can best prepare yourself in the game by just trying to figure out, especially if you're in a specific industry, there are questions that they're going to ask you that are pretty common. Behavioral questions are pretty common, making sure that you're self-aware. Self-awareness is really key as you're going through the interviewing process because you want to make sure that you know your resume, you know the experiences that you had. So again, that all comes in practice. So there are different tools you can look up online. You can record yourself going through the interviewing process. But again, knowing how to come back and recover. You feel like you've given a negative response or you're giving off negative energy in an interview, you have the opportunity in an interviewing session to actually turn that around. So just knowing techniques, and there's several techniques that you can use to actually flip what you think might be a negative question in an interviewing situation to make sure that you're given a fair response based off of your experience and your capability. So never take that. Take it as an opportunity to continue to build your interviewing skill, because it really is a skill, but it takes definite practice.
Someone else had a question. Yes.
Okay. Do you want to stand up and say who you are and then ask a question? That would be great. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Richard Yu, and I am a newly barred attorney practicing in both Maryland and Virginia. Going back to the topic of career growth, Mr. Choi mentioned a lot that Asian Americans especially may run into, the rabbit hole of grinding away 20 hours a day and expecting to be recognized and to have your work recognized. So in terms of appealing to your supervisors and managers, that's a clear yes. That's something we got to do. What about your colleagues? How important is it to have some kind of connection with your colleagues on a personal level in terms of job growth and career growth?
I think that's a very important. Your subordinate, your bosses, your peers, one of them is gonna make it up to the top. When you make an enemy, that enemy is gonna stay forever. Maybe I'm an old-timer, but I've been with Northrop Grumman for 30 years, and it's probably a very rare that in your age, thinking about staying in one company for 30 years. But in my industry, with a aerospace industry, Beltway, I probably know most of the executives and most of the high-level people. They've been around and going around from one company to another company or staying in the same company, Lockheed Martin and Boeing. So you never know. Secondly, it is very important that you get along with your team. I think trying to do everything yourself and fail versus bringing the team together and collaborate is the most important characteristics that you can show to your management. You don't want to be selfish and show that this is all I can do and I'll do it myself, versus reach out and trying to collaborate, not just within your team, across different divisions, across different sectors. That is one of the most important characteristics our company looks for.
Somebody have a question, or does somebody else want to answer that question? Well, how about everybody answer this question then? What is the biggest mistake that you have made in your career? I mean, we're just older, we've had more times to live, and we're not perfect. So what's the biggest mistake you made in your career? You heard me television saying, come on, you gotta have a good one.
Through all the mistakes.
So that they can learn from our age. And how did you fix it?
Well, I mean, I guess I could talk about a specific instance where I made a mistake, but there are literally too many to mention. I guess what I would say is you can make mistakes, but it's what you do after to recover from that mistake that's important. And if you have, there are a couple of things that are going to help you in that matter. If you have, through your experience and career, have built enough credibility with people, then your mistakes and failures will not haunt you. Like, one mistake's not going to kill you, but if you haven't built that credibility, then it's going to be critical in your career path. So I'm not really answering your question, but I don't know if there was a time where I had an epic fail that I couldn't recover from, precisely because I've done, I guess, enough to build credibility and answer the gentleman's question before, and that comes from also building a network with your colleagues, with your friends, that there's enough people that vouch for you, not just from top to bottom, but people that work with you every day that can help you in sort of getting through these tough times you might have in your career.
So I'm trying to think about, a big failure in my career. So I went through this decade of change, right? So I was in the Air Force for 10 years. I got out. right? I joined back then, it was a CMP telephone company. So after 10 years with the company, realized, you know, I was at the time a manager running a large network operations center, and I got bored. Right? So I've been doing the job for a few years, I got bored. And this colleague of mine from the Air Force had actually started a company, and this was in 2000. So those of you probably too young to realize it. So back in 2000, right, the proverbial internet bubble burst, right? So all the companies around here went out of business. So it was just right before that burst happened, right? I decided to take the hiatus from my, well-paid job, right? But the bell line, but so we changed transition from CMP to bell line. So I took the chance. So the big failure here is that, go back to what I think Timothy has said, right? Be willing to take that risk. And I think there was an ideal moment for me to take that risk and stay in it, but I got scared. And fortunately, I had a well-developed network right within the company before I left. Getting some good sponsors already built within the company. So I was able to come back, right, to corporation. But just kind of thinking back, you thought I had somebody that help along and say, hey, you know what, stay in here, take that risk, right? They built the company from the ground up, and that's the opportunity that I had missed. So don't be afraid, right, to take that risk. Don't be afraid. Don't take the risk, but just make sure you fail fast, move on.
My epic failure, I sold my stock too early 2 years ago. Our company tripled the stock price. Who knew that Northrop Grumman would be selling at $200 a share? But, so I think for me, the failure that I can talk about would be progression of where I am today versus where I could be. I think I was brought up as an Asian be submissive type of a environment, and that's the approach I took. And there's upside and downside to being a manager, director, some vice president. I wish I can actually go back to being an engineer and build something and be proud of what I produce. Being a director, vice president, the enormous responsibilities you get, it comes with a very high level, not knowing anything, but you gotta have a lot of responsibilities. A lot of the folks that I had, we call it sponsors, actually got fired or left the company. So as you progress, move up through the chain, you gotta be in the right line. You don't know that, right? There's so many different diverse paths, and you don't know which line is the right line. And it's all about, first of all, maybe a luck. Sometimes you gotta sort of know intuitively, am I in the right place at the right time? That is very hard to do. And I think as you progress through your career and mature through your career, I think you're gonna have to just learn that yourself. But it's all about crapshoot sometimes too. Because I tell you, being in a Fortune 500 company, buried over, we used to have 120,000 people, now we're down to 65,000 people. So imagine how many vice presidents, directors got cut in between those downturns, right? How do you survive that? Network is an important thing, but it's sometimes comes down to a luck. Some people are in the right place at the right time, and you just weren't in that place. So I don't know how to advise you, but I think you're gonna have to keep pushing it. Make sure you sell yourself, and hopefully all the pieces will fall in the right places for you, and we will see some great people coming out of this, all of you guys sitting over here, and really hope for that. We need a lot more leaders, Korean American, Asian American folks in corporate America. I believe that we are very minority presence currently in corporate America, and I think we got a lot of room to improve.
So mistakes will happen. I think it's really, I can think of probably one mistake that was a mistake that I made for myself. It was probably staying under a particular leader for longer than I should have, and I knew that earlier on, and I didn't seek to make that change. And so I think, as the other folks talked about, know when it's time, know when to speak up, and mistakes will happen. But don't keep making time. Listen to what advice people are giving you. Listen to feedback. If you're getting feedback that says, you really need to branch out, or you need to speak up, or you need to take on a little bit more, not just be your 9 to 5. There's a reason your management or your leaders are asking that of you, because they are going to see that potential. And if you're not going to do it, someone else will. And mistakes, if you can't overcome them, just look for mentors that can help you, or sponsors. Because if you have a barrier, I think we can all say we've had personal barriers. Look for somebody to help you overcome that and say specifically, I need your help with this. I don't know how to speak up for anything. Or I'm not a business development person, and I asked one of our very senior vice presidents, I said, I need your help. I don't do this every day. And they spent time with me because I asked for something specific, and I was able to overcome that barrier. That was a mistake, but it's always an opportunity for growth.
So I guess I'll answer this in 2 different ways. So everybody just kind of spoke to the thing, and honestly, I can't remember an epic fail, and probably because I've really made a brand for myself to always be accountable for situations. So that is one skill that if you're growing in your career, you make a mistake, be accountable. If you see a problem, don't come with excuses. People give you feedback, say thanks for the feedback, and just kind of move on from that. So I think I've been able to build a brand for myself. I've never, like you said, been able to recover from a fail. Like maybe I know it, and that's probably more stressful for me, because that's just how I am. But when I think of a mistake I made, which is probably a little bit more relative to I think where you guys are at this point, was I took too long to figure out that what people told me I should be in life or career wasn't what I wanted to do. So I grew up, the whole plan, Javon is going to law school. That was the whole big deal. And so I spent summers in college. I worked at a top-rated law firm every summer until I got to the 3rd summer, and I had the gall finally to tell my parents, so I'm going into consulting, law school, not going to happen, not what I want to do. I'd studied, they paid for LSAT prep, had done the whole thing. There was a point they tried to make me pay it back, because I came back from that and was able to negotiate. This is what I want to do with my career. That time I went into change management consulting, so that put me on the path to HR. So what I would say to you guys is to really take the time to explore what it is that you want out of your career. I know that can often be a difficult conversation, especially in certain cultures. I know with my family, it did not go over well over several holiday dinners. But it's a matter of understanding that, even if they're footing the bill for school, even if you decide, hey, I'll go to law school, I'll go to medical school, but I'll figure out what I want to do with that to make it and own it as my career. Because at the end of the day, when you write your life story, it's going to be about you and not people that kind of told you what it is that you should do with your life. So.
Epic failure? Not yet. I'm still here. I'm a problem solver. There's always a solution, and there's always a better solution after that. Failures, we should all go through. That's how we learn. And in hindsight, it's because of their failures we progress. Mine was, as Henry said, the typical Asian. We did everything. I had to do everything. And being a Korean, a mom, it was martyr syndrome. I had to do everything, had to solve everything for everybody. And got to a point where it was a standstill. Big project, it wasn't going forward, and we stopped. And that's when I realized I had to delegate. I had to delegate, I had to ask for help. I even had to delegate to my superiors. Because if he's a true leader and you delegate, you ask for help, you ask him to pitch in, he sees value in that. And that's how you get a promotion. Because of going through that process, I was able to build a lot better team, a lot more efficient team, and a lot more profitable team. And that's how I became the chief operating officer. Because I asked the CEO for help.
One last question. Any? Yes. Well, let's do both young ladies. Yes.
I'm Ellen Choi. I graduated from George Mason University last year, and I spent a year overseas in documenting. Kind of going back to the conversation about like mentors and sponsors. I just wanted to ask, like, what are some clear-cut ways in which we can like find and keep mentors and sponsors? And also, like for me, like I don't exactly know what industry I want to go into yet. Like I graduated with a psychology degree, I could go into a variety of fields, and so what are some ways that I can like find a mentor or sponsor, and also like, what is the benefit for them, to like mentor or sponsor somebody?
Sure. So one thing I would say, I don't know where you went to school, but as an alum of a university, you have resources available to you from a career services perspective. So I would encourage you to reach out to be able to utilize that as you're thinking about how to shape your job search. You can set up a career conversation, etc. In terms of mentors, that's also another resource that's probably available to you via your career service. But at the same time, you need to maybe talk to some folks and just be able to build your network. So I'm not sure how you've already done that, but you can set up informal conversations, whether it's meeting for coffee, and do things like that so that you continue to get to know people and find opportunities to explore options for mentors. When you're thinking about, there has to be something that you think you may have an interest in. So do some research and find where there may be professional events or organizations that you may be able to join just to learn more about the industry. And that way you can also have an extension to be able to learn about different mentors that can help you find your path and the career that you're attempting to do.
And I want to add that mentors aren't just people who are senior to you. I've had probably my best mentors are my peer mentors. It's somebody you can call and say, hey, you got this great job at Blvd last year. Hey, how's that going? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you think the skills are that make successful? Have your parents. I think probably one of my best mentors is my husband. He told me, this is the program for you to go back to graduate school. It's going to be perfect. And I was thinking about the management and information sciences, and this was like a hybrid IT MBA degree. This is the perfect fit. I mean, it took somebody to kind of who's looking out for you. So it could be just a colleague, a friend, someone just getting into the field who can offer really great advice as well. So I see those are your peers and your mom's best friend. Not my mom's best friend. Just kidding.
Yeah. So let me add to that is mentors and sponsors are two different things. Your boss cannot be a mentor. Mentor should be somebody who actually give you an advice, and that has absolutely nothing to do with your promotions. On the other hand, sponsors have everything to do with your promotion and moving your way up. So how do you do that? Well, if there are functions, somebody said Asian American like to just go home and watch TV. Go out there. If there are a party, if there are a network event, you need to go out there, and you feel kind of weird when you first get there because you don't know anyone. And you want to stand in that little corner and hope somebody will come and talk to you. Break that chain. Go into because everyone have that feeling. It's not just you. You need to just break that circle, go interject yourself, and make you a part of that conversation. At the workforce, there is a swirling of stuff going around, and you feel like you felt left out. You're going to have to interject yourself. But best way to find a mentor, best way to find sponsors are not in the workplace, but actually afterward, right? Either if they like to go play softball. I personally like to go ski patrol at Ski Liberty, so anybody up there. So I like to talk about skis, and anybody who has a passion about skis, I sit there and talk with them for hours. So you're gonna have to find somebody who has similar passion, not just from the work, but outside of work. We don't want to project ourselves as we are just as smart and we don't have anything else to add to the conversation. You want to welcome yourself. So don't be shy. They're not going to look at you like you're crazy or weird, break into a conversation, introduce yourself, say, hi, I'm Henry Choi. I do. And that's all it takes. Break the ice and start having that conversation. And you will make people, that's how you make that.
One last question from this young lady, and then we'll wrap up.
Please stand up and
Hi, my name is Gia Hong. I graduated from the University of Virginia. I'm now working.
See your network.
I'm now working for Oracle Corporation for about a year. I just want to ask you, after 1 year of hiring a specific batch of people, who stands out?
Sounds like an HR question. What was the
Even
question?
after managing a group of people as well.
You mean what stands out after a bit of experience? I think it's sort of, you know, summary of everything we talked about. Somebody who stands out, literally just kind of stands out. They're either more active in and more motivated, more proactive in getting the work done and showing the work that they've done and showing to people that they are out there and being proactive and they're more aggressive about things. Also, people who generally do a good job, again, networking internally, whether they have great relationships with their colleagues. As a supervisor or manager, you kind of see, it's easy to see when people gravitates towards somebody in a peer group, and that kind of stuff always stands out. So yes, the competency and the fact that you have to do a good job, that's the bare minimum. I mean, you should expect that out of yourself. But beyond that is, you know, what kind of interpersonal skills you have. You know, when you say leadership, it's not like, yay, I'm a leader, follow me, but how do you get people sort of to work with you? Again, how do you build that credibility? How do you, you know, network and show that people gravitate toward you?
Last comment. One thing that I tell my folks is, what did you do different this year than you did last year? So look at yourself from the previous year. What have you just come to work every day and done the task list? Or did someone ask you, hey, can you step up and do this? Or have you volunteered? So I always think of myself, like, what do I need to do? When my boss put me this year on my assessment cycle, year ahead, what do I want to say next year about this time? And I have a whole year to spend. And so that's the people that are going to break out, are the people that have made some changes, have adapted, have grown, have built their network, and have actually stood out.
Well, thank you all. We'll give them a round of applause.